Friends and colleagues, it's my privilege to welcome you to the third theme, and this is the third one in the series of 4 webinars we are doing. Webinar series we are running on municipal governance in the federal systems. This is the third one. Today, which is also 147th webinar of INHAF's series on Rethinking City, we are focusing on the governance challenge in small and medium cities. We have a highly knowledgeable and impressive panel of distinguished speakers that includes Shri Ashok Bhattacharya, who is a former Urban Development Minister of Government of West Bengal. Thank you, sir, for making time for this. We also have Dr. Balveer Arora, who is the chairman of Center for Multilevel Federalism, who is also co-president of the series with INHAF and Praja Foundation. We have Shri Hitesh Vaidya, a former director of NIUA, Shri Anand Iyer of Janaagraha, Dr. Lee Fan of UN Habitat, and she is from Nairobi, so it's good to have someone from Nairobi. Professor Gopa Samanta of Department of Geography of University of Burdwan, and Professor Souvanic Roy. I'm sure you will agree that with these experts and specialists on the panel, it cannot get any better. I welcome you all and thank you for making time for this event. Thank you very much. It is only a coincidence that INHAF is partnering with Dr. O.P. Agarwalji and the Indian School of Policy that is working on a flagship report to identify the role of Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. And I'm very glad that there is a overlap for this particular meeting. And that report of the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities is to be seen in the context of the Viksit Bharat of 2047 and the action needed to empower those cities for the same purpose. We have already completed 6 sessions and hope to do 9 more. It's a 15 event session. And I'm very glad because today's subject also overlaps with that. Now, small and medium towns are emerging as the key drivers of urban growth. We all know that economic transformation and regional development across India and, in fact, the global south. In India, Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities are expected to absorb a significant share of future urbanization supported by policy initiatives such as IDSMT, UID, SSMT, Amrit, and of course now the Urban Challenge Fund. These are the kind of support we have for that Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. But the fact is, despite their growing importance, the cities are often face challenges including weak institutional capacity, limited fiscal resources, staffing shortages, and fragmented governance systems. This webinar will explore how governance frameworks, intergovernmental coordination, fiscal support, and local leadership can strengthen urban management and support resilient, inclusive, people-centric, productive, and sustainable urban development beyond big metropolitan regions. It's very important that this happens because metropolises are bursting at seams, and we need to kind of find a counterbalance in form of tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Before handing over this to Professor Tathagata, I must tell you why we are doing this webinars for many years and what we intend achieving. This, as I said, is 147th webinar, and we are doing this for more than 5 years. The underlying rationale and immediate purpose of this webinar series is to germinate seeds for and contribute to building an operational societal partnership of multiple stakeholders to prepare for and respond to a difficult urban challenge we are up against. And I really want to repeat, that's a difficult urban challenge that we are facing. It is based on deeply felt concern that India's urban challenge is daunting, and we as people, we as government, we as professional, and we as civil society have not understood its dimensions adequately. We have not understood that adequately. I need to repeat it. And that lack of understanding is reflecting in the quality of cities that we have. World Bank once described it as chaotic. Whatever we examine, be that urban planning or water or governance or finance or sustainability or slums or affordable housing, our cities are saddled with intricate problems and challenges. And it is clear to us that meeting India's urban challenge, which I often describe as more demanding than even the climate challenge, is going to require a lot more than what is available, what is at disposal at this point of time. It appears that various stakeholders operating on their own from their respective vantage points may not be able to do justice to the complexity of the task we have on hand. What is needed in order to meet this challenge adequately is a collective effort, a wider multidimensional, multi-focus, and multi-layered societal partnership. And this webinar series, which is trying to put multiple dimensions of urban challenge on the public platform, is a modest effort in that direction, a very small contribution in putting the idea and the need across to people who matter, people like you and people who are listening to this webinar. There's a long way to go. Obviously, it's a huge amount of work is to be done if you want our cities to be better places to live and work. But we are convinced that nothing less than a wider societal partnership with the government in the center is unavoidable, and there's great need for it to happen. A wider societal partnership is the need of the hour, and that is needed in search of new approaches, new strategies, and new solutions. We will not be able to do with anything less. So with this longish introduction, and I'm sorry it's long, but I need to say this time and again, over to Professor Tathagata and the panel of experts we have today. So thank you very much. Tathagata, all yours.
Thank you, Kirti Bhai. For this great initiative, and also a big thanks to the Center for Multilevel Federalism. We had been having this series on the municipal governance in a federal system. So the first two seminars, webinars on this theme, the first one we discussed the structure of urban governance, and the second one we discussed the question about the municipal leadership. And today we shift the focus on the part of the urban landscape which does not always get discussed in mainstream policy debates, that is about the role of the small and the medium-sized cities. And in India, these cities, as Kirti Bhai has mentioned, are not just, they matter simply because the number, but because the role they play. They connect the rural economies to the national markets, they absorb migration, they create local industries, local trade, logistics, and services. In many ways, they are actually the bridge between the rural and the metropolis. And in India, in the policy landscape, the role of the small and the medium-sized cities had been recognized for a very long time. In fact, one of the first major urban sector scheme in India was started in 1979, if I remember it correctly. That is the integrated development of the small and medium towns program. And followed by, there had been the JNNURM, which has got a specific component on the small and the medium-sized towns. Subsequently, the JNNURM got converted to Amrut program, which also had a, although not specifically designated, but it covered several small and the medium-sized cities. And now again, we have a new program of the Urban Challenge Fund, which is specifically focused on the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 cities. So there had been a lot of effort in the part of the Indian federal governance system to include the small and the medium-sized cities, at least in a policy framework. But having said that, the ground level realization, it's still very problematic. And the question here comes that how do the federal and the decentralized systems create institutional, fiscal, and the human capacity that it allow these cities to become resilient, competitive, and also inclusive? In many ways, we had been our initial thinking on the small and the medium-sized towns had been not so much about the development of the small and the medium-sized towns, but rather to reduce population pressure on the metropolitan areas. So is this the approach the correct? Or what could be the new way of looking at, about the role of the cities at different scales? So we are deeply fortunate to have a very enlightened panel today. And before we begin the panelists, so first I would request Professor Balveer Arora, who is the chairman of the Center for Multilevel Federalism, which is the co-organizer of this webinar series. And Professor Arora is one of the leading international voices in the area of federalism. So he is a global recognized scholar, and he's received what is the equivalent of the knighthood from the French government, and he has been the rector of JNU. So, but the institutional designations does not actually capture the gamut of his scholarship. So first I would request Professor Balveer Arora to give a short talk, and then we would go to Professor, to Mr. Ashok Bhattacharya. So I would request all the panelists to kindly, in the first round, restrict the talk to about 7 to 8 minutes or so, and so that we can have a discussion, fruitful discussion in the second round as well. And of course, I mean, no one can sum up all this better than Kirti Bhai, because I mean, he has been what is called grand old man of India's urban studies, because I mean he is one of the few person about the National Commission on Urbanization who is still there. So he has got great memories for all the major initiatives that has happened. So let's first start with Balveer sir. Sir, can you please have a share about your thoughts?
Thank you, Tathagata, and Kirti Bhai and other friends. It's a great pleasure to be with you and to uh, partake of this discussion, which has been excellently framed by Professor Tathagata Chatterji. And I'm addressing one of the points that he raised in his concept note uh, around the issue of the determinants of municipal capacity, where he says that in federal and decentralized systems, municipal capacity is shaped not only by local institutions, but also by broader intergovernmental arrangements. I think that is a good starting point for looking at the broader issues. And so, a few facts on the table, a few, uh, let me put it, a few um, unpleasant facts. The first major fact is that intergovernmental institutional relations suffer a serious deficit in Indian federalism. I think we have to start with that fact, and that the mechanisms for consultation, are there in the Constitution, but not always brought into practice, and therefore they are supplemented or sought to be supplemented by political party channels, and that is the logic of what we hear dubbed under the uh, moniker of double engine Sarkar mechanism, is that that becomes the only way in which the two levels of government communicate effectively with each other. In reality, it's a hierarchical arrangement and subordination of the state and local to central command structures in the case of uh, polity-wide parties becomes inevitable. Of course, in the case of state-based parties, the question is posed differently. Now, what I'd like to do is to look at the question of governance in small and medium cities uh, through the federal lens, the federal dimension of governance, and I divided my short presentation into two parts. Part one deals with the metastructural dimensions and issues, and part two deals with the electoral ecosystem. I think taken together, these give us an understanding of what we are up against, what we are grappling with. Insofar as the metastructures are concerned, there is a difficult acceptance of multi-level federalism. I think we have to start with that proposition that it doesn't command a wide consensus among the political class for a variety of reasons that one can go into. But it is, I would focus on two main reasons. One is that the electoral system itself has become presidentialized in terms of focus on central personalities and the need for candidates to subsume their identities within an overarching uh, electoral framework. So, therefore, this is the logic, for example, in pushing a one nation, one election program. Uh, a one nation, one election program fits very uneasily with the concept of multi-level federalism because the mandates are different, the electorates, same citizens, but the functioning as different electorates on different programs, on different issues. So therefore, that this collapsing of mandates is one of the inevitable consequences. The second is the question of the financial, the deliberate concentration of financial resources at the central level to fund schemes which are an integral and crucial part of the welfare planks in election contests. And so they are rolled out in small and medium cities, and therefore this bundle, as it were, of welfare measures which is offered at each election requires funding, and because of the presidentialization of the electoral system, this is kept in the realm of the center. The logical correlation or consequence, if you like, of this is that periodically opposition ruled states are pinched into submission, if you, or compliance, and because they are portrayed as wasteful, as corrupt, as inefficient, and for the electorate that is based in small and medium towns, how does the double engine slogan convey itself? They are willing to forego self government if it brings improved governance. I think that is the choice that is very often placed before them, that for improved governance, you have to give self government a go by and rely on the superior wisdom of higher instances. The second part of the argument that I am developing before you is the electoral ecosystem. I don't want to take too much time. I could possibly develop it later, but the inhabitants of small and medium towns as voters are caught in the crossfire of multiple elections. And local elected officers like mayors and city councillors are overshadowed by the overarching electoral competition. I'm looking forward to listening to the experience of Shri Ashok Bhattacharya on this because he has seen it from the other end. But it's something that I'm putting forward as one of the constraints under which officials at that level, elected officials at that level, work. This is not unique to India, but there is a critical difference. The autonomy is not restored to the local even after elections. Command and control structures persist after the election is gone. They are kept in readiness for the next round and the next level of elections. So this, because the number of elections, the multiplicity of elections is a fact. These mechanisms that are uh, developed tend to acquire a certain stability and permanence. The concrete evidence of this, I just briefly mention it because I think all of you are familiar with it, is the MP Local Area Development Scheme and the MLA Local Area Development Scheme, which the budgetary allocations which would normally have accrued to municipal governments are kept for purposes of patronage and clientelism, and therefore are integral parts of constituency nursing. They are compounded by a fractured society which is reflected in urban habitats, caste and religion-based bastis or conglomerations, and therefore with obvious electoral consequences or implications because they require specific dispensations of amenities and largesse to nurse them as constituencies. I don't want to dwell here on the recent actions in West Bengal because we have a number of people from West Bengal, but the SIR of electoral rolls and the creation of two classes of citizens, those on the rolls and those who have been eliminated, even for welfare measures. I think that has been brought clear. So I will conclude. We have competing narratives. The center state matrix is crucial. It is at the core of governance problems and issues in small and medium towns. Entitlement to urban amenities is doled out as electoral patronage. Urban inhabitants are viewed as clients and beneficiaries. The Hindi word is labharthi. And in a larger scheme of things, an idea of nationhood based on an exclusionary logic is also woven into this narrative. So that is in effect, the great divide that I wanted to draw your attention to. And I hope I have kept to the 10 minutes that were allotted to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Balveer sir, for giving such a broad canvas and opening up the topic. And so this sets the perfect tone for me to invite now Mr. Ashok Bhattacharya. Just to, many of you know about Mr. Bhattacharya, and there would be a formal introduction in the chat mode. But in a very short way, I can say that there are very few people in India who has got such extensive political experience on the urban development issue. He has served for several years as the Urban Development Minister for West Bengal for I think about 15 years or so. And he has also been the mayor of Siliguri, a medium-sized town. And also earlier, he has been the chairman of the municipality before the Siliguri got upgraded into municipal corporation. So there are very few people who has got such extensive experience at different scales of governance. Sir, it is over to you, and I would request you to kindly dwell on this issue. In what way do you see that governance of a small or a medium-sized town like Siliguri is different from that of a governing a large metropolitan city or a city like Calcutta or so? Sir, it's over to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me as a panelist in this today's discussion. I have selected very important issues to discuss in this webinar. That is the governance, that is the municipal governance in federal system and the governance in small and medium city. You see, this is according to 74th of the Constitution Amendment Act. The municipalities are the third tier of the government. I'm very much pleased to say that when I became the municipal chairman in the year 1988, there is a very meager amount of provision for the development of small and medium town. But in the year 1991, I became the first Minister of the Urban Development and Municipal Affairs, the government of West Bengal. At that time, in the year 1992, the 74th Constitution Amendment Act was enacted, and the municipalities got the constitutional recognition. So now we are passing an era of the urbanization. The urbanization of developing countries, the urbanization of China and India. In the year the last 2011, I got a figure. There's 54% of the population of the world. They lived in small and medium towns and the big cities and big cities. Now it has become. It is already by about 60%. So I have some. I am not a this scholar. I am not a academician. Whatever I will speak here from my experience, practical experience. I served 3 years as the municipal chairman of Siliguri municipality. Then I became the minister for the urban development and municipal affairs, and I continued for 20 years. Then I lost the election, and again I became in the year 2015. I became the mayor of Siliguri, and also became the MLA from the Siliguri. As a mayor, when I became the mayor, at that time I was in opposition party. My experience as a minister, my experience was I was in the ruling party. But when I became the mayor, at that time I was in opposition party. I did not get this the genuine this cooperation from the state government, also from the central government. As because at that time in West Bengal there was the government of our opposition. The Trinamool Congress party was in the government. At that time, BJP was in the power of the central government. But this, because of their non-cooperation, development suffered a lot. Number two, what I want to say here, that is the this urbanization, the present urbanization as a result of capitalist neoliberal economic policies. That is not playing a positive role. The first generation of the urbanization, that was the based on the manufacture-based industries. Second generation of urbanization, it was especially in and around of the post-colonial countries. And the third generation of urbanization, it is the urbanization of developing countries and during the period of neoliberal economic policy. Now I am saying, what is my experience? My experience is the 74th Constitution Amendment Act. No doubt it is a historical amendment act. Lot of power. The 12th schedule was added with the Constitution. But now it is my experience is that a lot of small and municipalities in West Bengal, there are 900 municipalities or the census towns or the statutory or the non-statutory towns. Only 126 towns are the statutory towns. And the remaining towns are non-statutory towns or the census towns. But in West Bengal urbanization, the contribution of urbanization in West Bengal, 66% from the either census towns or the non-statutory towns. But all the small and medium towns, They are totally dependent either on the state government's finance or the central government, centrally sponsored schemes. But when Mr. N.K. Singh was the chairman of the 16th Finance Commission, at that time I met him as a mayor. When I was at that time I was a mayor. I met him. I gave a suggestion to him that this Finance Commission should make the recommendation for the development of small and medium term. Sources of these taxes, it should be transferred to the municipalities. Many source of the taxes, either it is with the central government or with the state governments. But the municipalities, this source of collection, tax collection is only the municipal tax only. But earlier there was a tax of the this trade license. That trade license was also transferred to the state governments. So it is very important thing. The empowerment is very, very important. Empowerment to the municipalities. Empowerment, financial empowerment, and also the empowerment of the people's empowerment. For the development, municipalities of the developing countries, in my opinion, it is very important thing, that is the democratic decentralization. Democratic decentralization and the people's participation in municipality, that is very important. Still now, 61% of the municipality of our country, there's no elected municipalities there. Elections are not held in the most of the cities and the towns of our country. In West Bengal, during the period of the last state government, for the last 13 years, there is no election. At least 25 municipalities, there is no election was held in West Bengal. So election should be held in regular intervals. That is very important. Number two is very important. That is the district planning. There is no district planning, no functional district planning committee, and the municipal and the metropolitan planning committee in at least 3 or 4 states. They have some elected district planning committee or the metropolitan planning committee. Other municipalities, they do not have any elected DPC or the MPC. In West Bengal also, West Bengal, during the period of the late form government, West Bengal was the first state province where the elected metropolitan planning committee was constituted. After the next government came to the power, and practically there is no existence of the district planning committee and the metropolitan planning committee. The ward committee is compulsory in the 1 lakh above population cities. But what we did when we were in the power, I was the urban development minister. At that time, we enacted the act and we made it compulsory for the ward committee, irrespective of the size of the municipalities. It may be the big cities or the small cities, and every municipality or the cities, there must have the ward committee. Ward committee is essential. But there is no function of the ward committee. Now, the most of the control of the municipal areas, it has gone to the hands of some elites, some elite people. They are practically controlling the municipalities. There is no participation of the slum dwellers, of the women, or the poor administrators. Right? As you know, Mr. Tathagata Chatterji, you know better, the first this elected mayor was Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das. When Chittaranjan Das elected the municipal, this mayor of Kolkata, at that time, he said that the municipal corporation must be the municipality or the corporation of the poor people, of the poor people. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, he gave this one speech in the year 1938 in Bombay. That is all. He on the municipal socialism. The municipal socialism means the municipal must do the developmental works among the all the section of the people. That was his recommendation. What is in the when I was the minister at that time, this if you see I am giving one example. If you see the increase of the population of towns of 10,000 to 20,000 in West Bengal, it was increased from 5.1% in the year 2001 to 9.3% of 2011. But the population of 1 lakh to 5 lakh town decreased to 38.91% from 48.9% to between 2001 to 2011. That is decreased. The population of big cities, that is being decreased. Population of small cities, small towns, or the non-statutory towns, or the census towns, small and medium towns, it is being increased. So it deserves more attention from the state government or from the central government to the small and medium towns. Urban population is in West Bengal is increasing in not statutory and small and non-statutory towns, but decreasing in statutory towns. Big cities and towns are not attracting the migrants because their capabilities to economic activities is decreasing, which is not helpful for industrialization and job creation. During 2 decades, population of city of Kolkata remained static, but population of peripheral areas of Kolkata, it was increased. So that's why policy of urban development of our country and state is practically, it is the bias to the big cities, to the metro cities. But India needs these more projects, more schemes by the state government or by the central government for the development of like the integrated development of small and medium towns, SMT.
Ashok
But
Babu, maybe can we come back to the details little later? You're running out of time little bit.
Yes, this is 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes or 3 minutes. So,
Sure.
That's why, because you see that during the late government, we followed a policy of democratic decentralization, people's participation, reduction of poverty, policy of sustainable urban development, environment-friendly development, urban-rural link, and the management of peri-urban areas and non-statutory urban areas. That was the policy of the late government. But the present government is not following this kind of policy. That's why my suggestion will be that the more attention should be given to the small and medium towns. Otherwise, the urban development of our country, it cannot be a balanced urban development, urbanization and the urban policy in our country. That's I conclude with these few words.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bhattacharya. It has
I'm leaving
been a
here.
really pleasure. Yeah, we'll come back to you because, you have such in-depth ground level experience, which speaks for itself. Now let me move to another person with a very substantial urban policy experience. That is Mr. Hitesh Vaidya. Hitesh ji, you had been the director of the National Institute of Urban Affairs. Before that, you had been with UN Habitat India. Before that, you had been with USAID. So you have seen urban policy making from very close quarters. So what is your take and what policy shifts would you like to? And also you come from Shimla, which is another not a metropolitan city. What is your take on this issue? And also recently you have been part of the Kerala Urban Commission. So kindly share your views.
Uh, Thank you very much, and good evening to all my panelists and all the people who are joining. Thank you, Tathagata Saab and Kirti Saab, to give me an opportunity to speak here. Very strange that we are organizing, and maybe not strange, but coincident that we are organizing this workshop and this discussion in the month of May. And why I said that? Because when it comes to small and medium towns, which is the topic, we still operate in the space of May. We at a policy level, so we always say may small and medium towns get recognized. May we move? I think my Balveer Singh ji said may move from fragmented administration towards the integrated form of multilateralism. Maybe move from, and Ashok Bhattacharya very nicely, and I think expanded from scheme-driven urbanization to demand-oriented missions and aligned with the local realities. So, real question is how long we go with this whole idea of May, when this May will become shell. I'm not sure. We're still struggling from 1994 with 74th Amendment between May and Shell. And I think unless we move from the May and Shell, we all will have this type of discussions moving forward. While you ask my experience, and I definitely see that our whole thinking has been very, very metropolitan or planning oriented or metropolitan city. In the policy contours, we don't even think there is a city beyond Delhi. We think that Delhi is the concentration of all urban. Everything what happens Delhi happens in Himalayas or happens in Northeast. We don't even make a diversion and that. So Delhi is a very centric thinking we have. While we are talking about 2020, and I think Mr. Bhattacharya did mention 2011 census. If you really look at it, we have 13,650 settlements, and they include census towns, they include urbanizing villages, they include small towns, and there are almost 187 million people, which is around 16% of India's population. And we are not thinking about it. I just recently did a World Bank study, which was a part of 16th Finance Commission. And what we realized is the climate disaster is not going to happen where earthquake came and others. Climate disaster is going to happen with these small and medium towns or these census towns, which has become urban in character, but are governed by the rural thinking. I'll give you a small example, and I'm not saying that a small example, if you look at it, when the cities which are next to the urban village, they are rural, but they're all the standards which they are using, all the SORs there is all rural. So their pipelines, the thinking is rural itself. So your infrastructure is rural, which is being used by the urban. That's what I'm saying, and that's where the biggest challenge challenges, right? And I think, as my experience is, we have all talked about speed and scale. I think the time has come to pause and reflect now, not just jump on, because we want to make roads, we want to make this. I think the challenge is not what is visible. The challenge is what is invisible, which is our cities capable of running these small and city. How do you build the capacities of these cities? How do you bring the capabilities of these municipalities which has to govern? How do you transfer them, transition them from rural to urban? Does one size fit all approach will all rural and peri-urban becomes urban and metropolitan? How do you differentiate between them? So do you want to have a cluster of urban local bodies which are small and medium to make them one big one? Do you want to create a whole regional approach, which is being right now talked about? We are still struggling with. We are doing a lot of pilots, whether it is Niti Aayog and all, but we are not really having a big thing and saying that where do we want to go forward from now? If we have that ambition of 5 trillion economy, the 5 trillion economy will actually happen in the cities. And this engine, which we call it engine of economic growth, has totally shifted from city engine to a peri-urban engine. If engine has shifted, then your parts also has to shift. It cannot be that you shift engine because your manufacturing, your agrarian, everything has gone MSMEs, everything has. So it's not only demographic transition, it's also economic transition which is happening there. So I think one good thing has happened, that it has come up into a lot of discussions. Anand is here. Janaagraha is taking a lot of initiative on that. And 16th Finance Commission has taken a cognizance of that. While we talk about Urban Challenge Fund, I think the new tool which has come up is called Urbanization Premium under the 16th Finance Commission, which has allocated 10,000 crore rupees to states to start thinking about what need to transit, where do transit, what type of transition policies we require to have. So I think that thinking has started evolving over a period of time towards this. So, but I'll stop with my 5-pronged approach, which I think, and everybody can give a gyan, and I can also put my two points here. But I think there has been in India, with my experience, has been that the next reforms or next generation of reforms which we are now going to move should not only think about infrastructure. It should start talking about municipal capabilities, staffing, finance, planning systems, data systems, and accountable local leadership. That's my point one, because it's not about how good infrastructure is, but how well we are managing this infrastructure. Second thing is, I think even though we have started in a pilot, I think whole regional planning approach has to really take. We have forgotten. We neither have a regional planning tools. There used to be, but now we don't have a regional planning tools. We don't have regional planning instruments, and we don't have a thinking of regional planning. While we are talking about economic region, there cannot be only economic region. There has to be sustainable region also. You can't have just economic region. And Tathagata Sahab, you say you are talking about Cuttack, Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, that BPCP region. I looked at their plan. There is a zero word on heat stress. There is a zero word on sustainability. There is a zero. So you can't have economy without sustainable. People come to breathe in the places. If they don't have a breathing, then why should I come to the city? So I think that whole shift has to be more of economic planning to city planning, while we are talking about regional planning. While we have been very happy with a lot of missions, which is all top down, I think the whole creativity has got killed because of missions, because all cities are only linked. Mission से पैसा आ रहा है तो काम करना है, वही काम करना है जो mission बोलता है. So whole thing is how many RFPs I have made, how many TORs I have made, how many consultants I have engaged, and how many projects are under procurement. There's no thinking as a city what we need to think about. What is my city? Where I'm going to go. There's no thinking. So I think the whole demand-oriented planning has to be really good rather than the top-down planning or top-down thinking. Nothing can happen on the corridors of Nirman Bhavan, or now it's no longer Nirman Bhavan or Sankalp Bhavan. It has to move from Sankalp, has to move down to do, because Nirman ho gaya. अब उसको करना है, उसको आगे बढ़ाना है. So I think that's where we need to talk about. And I fully agree with Mr. Balveer ji, who was talking about, unless we start thinking of what are those horizontal and vertical linkages, we will be not able to address the climate risk, labor markets, water systems, mobility networks. It has to come this whole multi-level urban federalism. And last, which I'm just stop here, is right now we all talk about climate, but you look at cities after cities and they say हमने heat action plan बना दिया. आजकल heat action plan has become a big jargon and big flavor. Everybody is making a heat action plan. Nobody is saying who is the responsible to actually action that action. And I have come to think, when you call action plan, either you have plan or you can have action. You can't have both together. So this, I do agree that heat action plans or heat thinking has to happen. But my only thing is, unless you mainstream in the overall city planning, where do you want to do? What do you want to do? I was in one city where he says, I have 10 planning instruments. Yours can be another one. So I think the integration is the key word now. And these small and medium towns are not in isolation. They are not something other entity. They have to also integrate within the city thinking. And whatever approach we need to have as a regional approach or planning approach has to be more integrated approach. I think that's where it's the most difficult word to integrate. But I think the only thing is integrate. Why? And I always say that if we have what you call one vote, one nation, one something, why can't we have one city, one plan? And one city government, or one mayor who is actually in charge and all things. Why not, if that is the slogan, one city, one vote, one army, then why not one city, one? Because that's the most important thing, because that's affect my life, my quality of life, my economic strength. I think that's where we need to really think about. I stop here and I am happy to take questions, and I hope I made some sense, because there are stalwarts here. I try to contribute as little as much I knew, but thank you very much for giving me a time, and thank you. Looking forward to have views from other panelists on this. Thank you.
Hitesh ji, you hit so many nails in one go. So, but I mean, nothing can sum up it better than one city, one government, one mayor. I think Ashok Babu would be very happy to respond to that in the next round. And of course, I mean, you talked about the issue of climate change and heat action plan. So in India now we are in a critical situation, although we call the cities as the engines of the economic growth, but the main three cities, Delhi, people cannot breathe. Bangalore, people cannot move. And Bombay, Mumbai, people cannot afford to have a house. So if that is the situation, then how the engine can run? Of course, the great points that you have raised. So now let me come to Professor Gopa Samanta. Gopa ji, you have worked so much in depth about the small and very micro-sized settlements as well. And you have also worked from a theoretical perspective as well as practical grounded research. So can you please share your thoughts? The governance framework we have adequately reflect the regional and the complexities about the small the towns of the different sizes and the scales? What is your take where we should be going?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Chatterji, for bringing me in here. It's really good to listen to other stalwarts in the field. So what I'll be speaking here, that is from my 35 years experience of understanding smaller towns and cities. And my study sites are mostly focused on the towns from West Bengal, Bihar, and Jharkhand. And I was writing a book, I was working on a book manuscript, which I just finished. That is on 6 towns. So 2 from West Bengal, 2 from Jharkhand, and 2 from Bihar. So I had to look into, for that, I had to look into the governance structure as well. So all of us, we know that basically the small towns or cities, or even bigger cities, are run by the State Municipal Act. And state municipal acts vary from one state to the other. So governance structure itself is quite a bit different. Like when a town in West Bengal, the maximum power is with the mayor or the chairperson. Whereas if you go to the small towns in Bihar and Jharkhand, you will see that even the chairman will tell you that go to the executive officer who is running there might be some public officers who will know better about the situation. So the governance structure is different, but what I'm trying to share with you here, that the problem is this project driven urban infrastructure development. So as all of you know, that the projects for urban development planning, so starting from master plan and all other things going on, what I feel that each city have a different kind of demand for themselves. Some cities might not have, smaller towns might not have the water, what they need to supply to the people. And some cities have really a problem of waterlogging. Some cities have a real problem of solid waste disposal, which is a common among all smaller towns and cities. But the thing is, the maximum problem they handle with, what I understood from a closer view, that is the lack of enough fund. So lack of fund is a major problem for them. And then why? Because fund comes from big projects and programs. And these big projects, starting from the JNNURM, Amrut, or every program, they always cater well to the bigger cities and metropolitan cities. But the small towns, they don't get much from these programs. They get at the end, like 65 mission cities got JNNURM fund. Then a little fund came to this small towns, but that was meager. So I analyzed the municipal financing over 20 years for all these towns. Very key in looking into very much detail of what they get from where and how they generate. So generation of revenue, the revenue generation capacity is still limited, very, very limited for small towns, because they don't have much to generate huge resources. Like they have only small commercial outlets. Industries are really not much within the municipal boundary, and they cannot take the revenue from the industry which is located in a panchayat outside the municipal boundary. So even if there are some kinds of small manufacturing sectors, that does not facilitate the funding structure of the municipal small towns. So and another problem is, so the municipalities, they don't get much fund from the central government under central government programs. So whatever they get, maximum comes from the state government allocation. And state government allocation was so skewed, And definitely political economy works a lot in decision making, which municipality will get maximum benefit from the state government, maximum fund from the state government, even if during the earlier regime of the government in West Bengal, as long as some of the small municipal towns, they were not exactly under the same party which was ruling at the state. So it was like, in the open forum, the minister said that as you have not elected my party, I will not give you fund. So that happens very often not only between the center and the state, but also between the state and the smaller municipalities. Now, the question is how municipality can generate, even the smaller municipalities can generate revenue. In 2006, West Bengal government started to dig deeper into it and developed a norm that the water tax they have to pay for at least for the commercial sectors and also from the household sector. Then as I was trying to look at how much fund they are generating, and sometimes it is 40 lakh per month, even for small towns it's 20 lakh to 80 lakh. They could generate huge resources from that water tax, because other thing they have only the property tax and the commercial taxes and nothing else. So that fund, even when there was a change in the regime in the state government, then it was cut. No municipality will be taking water charges. Even the municipalities which installed even the machines at meter at the household level and the shops, they had to stop. And there was no geo, in fact. So the municipality started losing a huge amount of revenue, even small and medium-sized towns, because they started doing at least better in generating certain kind of revenue to strengthen their financial capacity. Then they lost. Then coming to the planning question, I'm really not a planning person, because I'm a critic. My position is a critical geographer. So I try to understand where the problem lies and where are the root causes of the problem. That is my work to do. And in doing that work, what I understood, that these small towns is not in a position that they can manage their own fund. Sometimes, when and the demand itself, then if it is not a master plan, I'm not really sure that master plan helped many cities, even the bigger cities, because even the Kolkata, Mumbai and Chennai and Bangalore all had master plan, and you see where we stand today, that they are not doing very well. So I'm rather than planning, in fact, in the theoretical question, people are like Gautam Van, they are talking about that, stop talking about planning and unplanned. It's not unplanned, it's like auto-constructed. So this, like my last speaker, what Professor Vaidya has already mentioned, that it's not, whenever we talk about a planning, then we always think about infrastructural planning. And the small towns and cities always suffer from the basic service provisions, like the water, the street lights, and the maintenance of streets. And the question comes when you talk about the sustainability question and the climate change and the heat resilience, all these things we are talking about big cities. Actually, small and medium cities were very much in a better position, because they had green cover, they had numerous ponds, and so ponds were like a soaking, they can soak the even the heat and also the extra water during the monsoon. And now each and every small town are going through rampant real estate development driven by neoliberal economy. And I can tell you, even the big chains of real estate, they are working even a small town like Hazaribagh and Jhumri Tilaya, and also in Bihar, Samastipur or Hajipur. So these real estate and also local promoters, and in nexus with the political parties in power. So what they are trying to do, that they are trying to take those small towns from the sustainable one to a very unsustainable future. Even if we can stop that kind of, making it unsustainable, then probably we can save these small and medium towns. And what I also would like to add here, that small towns are becoming more and more the places where the migrants are coming. Because we already know that big cities are not affordable for migrants, poor migrants, because the cost of living in the big cities, even if people are in a shack or in a sheltered, common shared house, whatever it is, that has become very costly affair. So people are trying to move a little bit, and we all know that agricultural economy is in a mess in India, whatever states you talk about. And I have worked on that to understand how people are forced from the farm sector to the non-farm sector, and they are trying to commute even distances. They can easily commute to smaller distances, like, going to work in the small towns. So what small towns need, it's not just an organized, planned infrastructure development. No, they need that how can they best serve the citizens. And if they can best serve the citizens with enough water, in a clean and lighted streets, because once I have also worked on the safety and security question. Safety, security, even 10 years or 15, because I'm working in this field for 35 years. So even 20 years before, and my own lived experiences in a small town, I used to drive a bicycle, and I used to come back with on my bicycle at 10 p.m. in the night. Nobody questioned about the security problem here, because the neighborhood was stronger. And that's why we had a feeling that if we pass through this neighborhood, I will not have a problem. Somebody will be sitting on the open veranda. In Bengali, we call it a rock. People used to chat there. So and women are always talking that we what we need, as what we see as a safety security. When you come from a planning and infrastructure baggage in your head, you will always be talking about that we need CCTV cameras. But CCTV camera, CCTV cameras do not make women safer in the night on the streets of a city or town. That helps to catch the criminal. That helps the policeman. So what helps women as a safety and security? It's a clean street light and the people in the street. So small town was safer. Small town was more sustainable. Small town is becoming the future. Small town is becoming the future of urban. Like, people claustrophobic, air and choking your throat. How can you live in Delhi for generations unless you have a purified cubicle where you are moving? And then thinking about Bangalore. So what we have done with this infrastructure building and engines of growth, now we have to go back, how we can make the cities livable rather than making that growth engine. And I think small towns are more livable with their limited economic growth. I'm not saying so nowadays what we see as not much of development of manufacturing happening everywhere. And if it is happening, then we are pushing those manufacturing units like sponge iron, which are heavily polluting industries. They are pushed towards more small towns. Like they are not building their towns in Durgapur, which is an industrial town. There are more and more sponge iron factories in Borjora across the river in a small census town. So where I worked for quite a long time. So these kinds of problems are there, and like I would like to bring one example here. One of my field sites is Hazaribagh. And when there was a change in the government of Hazaribagh, Canary Hill was heart of Hazaribagh. Canary Hill is a very small, I don't know how many of you have visited Hazaribagh. I visited 10 times because that was my research site. So Canary Hill was like a oxygen and was like something Hazaribagh town holds to. And then the government decided to make a 4-lane highway, chopping off the Canary Hill right in between the town and the hill. And the people fought a lot that we want our Canary Hill within the city, not a 4-lane highway which we cannot cross and go to the hill. And even this was a place for breathing space for the people of Hazaribagh near the Canary Hill. And that has undergone a tremendous change, and like a 4-lane highway in between the town. People of the town fought for keeping the Canary Hill inside. And now we are talking about a climate change and disaster, climate resilience, heat resilience. So we have to go back to think how we can shift our attention from more planning, grand planning perspective, more like engine oriented development of the cities, and we can think about smaller scale, not only in the small cities, even for the big cities. We have to scale. That the time has come where we have to scale down of everything, whatever we are doing. It may be the infrastructure development or anything. So and that's why I would say that and another point I would like to make, I don't think that this...
Professor Gopa, can we come back to you later? Because we are
just
kind of...
just one sentence.
Okay.
Just one sentence. One sentence. Then what I feel that rather than having the project orientation and tied fund, they should be given untied fund, so that whatever is their necessity, what is their demand, they can utilize that money for that particular purpose. So untied fund is the necessity of the future, not the tied fund under a strict project outline. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for taking a little more time.
No problem. No problem. So, Gopa, you have again raised several very key issues based on your research, and brought some issues which we seldom think about, and also about the gender and the infrastructure interfaces. Now let me move to Mr. Anand Iyer from Janaagraha. Anandji, you are the Chief Policy and the Insights Officer of Janaagraha, and you have over 24 years of experience at the state and the central government level, and you have also worked with the NIUA. So you have a huge experience, and also particularly you have worked in the area of capacity building. What are your takes about the capacity challenges of the small and the medium-sized towns? So how do we move from an infrastructure delivery kind of a system to building long-term municipal capacities? So kindly restrict to about 8 minutes or so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are running a little bit
Right, no, I can see that.
beyond time.
I try my best. Just checking. Am I audible properly?
Yeah.
Okay. In a little contrast from the other speakers, I'd like to use a set of slides which are a little data intensive, simply because there may be researchers and those interested. And I speak from facts. And I think I like your positioning of moving towards a solution. So this is something that I think I'd like to do. Just like a confirmation, if my slide can be seen. Is this visible to others? And maybe a slideshow might help. Just confirm that you can see that as well. Is this fine?
Yes.
Very well. Very well. Thanks so much. So very quickly, I'm going to use this presentation just two parts, the problem and the solution. So I'm going to go a little quickly and not read every bit of the slide in the interest of time. This is the overall figures. I think people have spoken about it. There needs to be considerable focus on urban. These are conservative figures simply because they're about 15 years old. This is something that we have done with MOA, which says that there are not 4,000 cities, there are nearly 5,000 cities. That's simply because several have been declared statutory. So in fact, even going by that time, you know this, when the new census comes out, you may realize that we may have added a couple of thousands more on the census side itself. And here is, I'm just trying to break this up into functions, funds, and functionaries. I'm taking from Kirtibai's point, who said it's not been understood sufficiently. And therefore, I think this presentation is devoted a little bit to going in depth to understand that capacity building in the last column is not independent of the others. The CAG points out that just 4 of the functions that Ashok and Professor Balveer pointed out, only 4 are actually devolved. If you look at functions, funds, there's a big gap between what you can earn and what you are spending. A bulk of this is dependence on state and center for promised grants. There's more than a 1/3 vacancy. This is average. I'll give you detailed figures later. And there is inadequate training. So everybody's relying on generic training, and I'll come to. These are some large figures that says that there is a big deficit. The capacity problem is just one of that. This is the picture of vacancies. And you can see that the small and medium have considerably larger vacancies. These are average figures. This is the Comptroller and Auditor General of India in the ULGs that they audited. This is state-wise vacancies. Now, interesting thing, I'm bringing LHS and RHS together because there is a link I perceive between vacancies and the fact that functions are not devolved. You see, the state plays this card, the state government, that it is because you are unable to handle that I'm managing from myself or through parastatal or through a development authority, etc. etc. Therefore, you see that on paper, almost all functions are devolved, but effectively, we're talking about 4. And these are some of the most menial. Of course, it's an average, so the number changes across states. Burial ground cemeteries, tanneries, crematoria. These are the kind of functions that solid waste, the kind of functions that are devolved. So this is the status in, this is capacity constraints seen overall. The states hold all power over the USLG. So I'll keep using either local government or local self-government, including suspending a ULG without notice. That's what a state government can do, which means hiring or recruiting is not something that the ULG can do by itself. Only 11 or 15 have notified cadre rules, and then when you have them notified, you have not activated the positions. Because this is where this section is called paradox. Because if you hire all the positions, you will be further out of funds because you can't pay the salaries, you're relying on states. So the quantity problem is a paradox. You have vacancies, but you can't fill them up. It just gets more complicated than this. Look at this. This is distribution across grades. And you can see that the lowest grades not only form the largest bunch, they also have the least vacancies, which means there is considerable vacancy on top at the managerial level. 90% of staff is in the lower category. And the vacancies are higher in the second one. The RHS says you outsource bulk of it. No, naturally, the cities can't not run. So what do? You contract it out. This happens in other ministries and departments as well, or other aspects of governance. But this is shocking. More than a third of you are outsourced, which means they are not your owners. This is a training deficit. You don't have a mandate. You hardly you nominate people. These are the numbers. So nobody is getting trained every year. There is no provision for a certification-based skill. Now people are signing up to IGOT and Karma Yogi. I'll talk about that in a later slide. So what happens is you get routinely sent to some ad hoc training. Some bilateral, multilateral is doing a training, you get nominated. That's not linked to who you are or what you actually need to do. This is all CAG's data that I'm quoting. So this is just a summary of the problems that I feel we have. Huge vacancies, but bulk of the cost is actually staffing. Debt servicing is the next. If I put them two together, these are 60% of a city's revenue is spent in its own salaries and servicing the debt. Managerial bandwidth, missing middle. The top of any city will come from the services, which is either the administrative service of India or of the state. After that is a big gap. And the top may last for average of 15 months. That's a study. We studied, we found it's only 9 months average that a commissioner takes charge of a city. I talked about elections in another slide. I mean, Ashok mentioned this about, but this in Bangalore, we have 6 years. Coimbatore did 9 years. Chennai did 23 years without an elected government. So when your executive lasts very less and the elected is missing, you understand the forms in which capacity is constrained. And this is what, so this is just a summary of the previous things. And just this last slide of the problem. If you compare staff per lakh population of global cities versus Indian cities, this is where you stand. And Mumbai is in fact an outlier in India. How do you imagine you will get first world level of cities, including infrastructure and services? I'm not even talking governance, just basic water supply, sanitation, solid waste, mobility. How can you imagine you will get that if you do not have even the people to do so? The economic surveys points out an absolutely strong correlation. So again, this is just data. This is not opinion. This is not experience. I'm simply coming from data that says there is a very stark problem. It's quantified. Now I'll come to this and just biding time, and I'm glad for any questions later. You need to solve it separately. You need to solve the quantity problem different from the quality of people problem, different from the managing the people or the design problem, and then later come to performance management. So I'm going to take it in 4 parts. This is quantity. This is very typically the kind of functions that you need to handle. You know, people, including the think tanks in the government, give capacity, give a sanction position. It was there in one of the earlier slides, just based on the population. It's called size of city. So you'll get tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and you should have so many people. That's flat. You don't even know the bioclimatic region. You don't know the geography. You don't know if they're handling mobility or not. You don't know if they're outsourcing solid waste. You can't give a flat structure. You need to first check what is. Then apply the model in a dynamic manner to what is it that you're handling and in which manner. And therefore only have the staff of that kind. You need a headcount kind of a estimation model. Figure out what is the extent situation. Create an Excel-based model working. We have this and we have done this with Assam. I'll show you something that we've done later. Anticipate your future needs. Don't be constrained by current headcount. So create archetypes of cities, and within archetypes of cities, create particularly what each city needs. 2 neighboring cities of the same kind may need staffing differently. Somebody in Rajasthan needs water supply staff completely different from somebody in Meghalaya. This is plain intuitive. Therefore, the modeling should be at department level, and this is something we've done with success. Then you identify that these are definitely the positions that I need. Don't blanket go against a set of officials you need for a kind of population. That's quantity. This is something that we did in Assam, and I'm giving you this about a 1-year-long engagement with the Housing and Urban Affairs Department there. But this is whom we studied. That's the number of people. And these are some very broad recommendations or insights. And now we are working them for the next 3 years to make sure that they get these positions instead of just stopping at, oh, capacity is a big constraint and I think we need to have more people. You say specifically which people do you need to get in. I think that's very important. You need to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. And that's what I suppose bulk of us in this call should be doing. This is how specific it gets. How many houses can a tax collector do in a day? How many in May? How many in August? This is different. And therefore you need, how many tax collectors do you need? So there is a billable, there is a receive, there is a, taxable, billable. There are all these, you do according to that. And these are just some very broad things that I said. And we made recommendations. Saying there are people you can outsource. There are people who can be reskilled. And then there are some places where you are you need to hire. So expertise will not come to smaller cities even if you put out the advertisement. This is a reality. You need to think of alternative ways in which you can get the expertise that is there in the city, willing to work in private sector, but not to government. You just need to get the accurate job descriptions and the focus on performance in order for them to be able to respond. This is a case study again. This is CAG, but we ourselves went and covered 10 cities of these types. So you can see 8 is what we did in the smaller types, small and medium. Only 2 we took the large city. Similar problems all over. 70% vacancy. There are people handling positions in 4 cities which are 400 kilometers apart, which means they pretty much stay in one city and manage the rest by WhatsApp. And I'm not joking here. This is our diagnostic that we went to cities and found out. Building plan approvals are given for the whole of a state by one officer in certain places, and we know the officer. It's just a lack of capacity. Shocking news article the other day where a veterinary doctor was given an assistant town planning additional charge. Not joking, news item in a newspaper. So this is how it is. Now I go to training. That's the quantity deficit. This training, you need to go beyond, and this is where I talk about IGOT, Karmayogi, and the National Urban Learning Platform of the NIUA. There are a ton of courses across domains. There are a lot of sign-ups. Which means if you need the material, if you know what material you need, and if you know who is supposed to go for that material, the material is available. But we were never short of expertise in this country that provided the knowledge or gyan, as Hitesh mentioned earlier. It is how to tap it. Therefore, this is the system and this is what we are working with across the country in the 3 states we are in presently. This is very simple. This is 101. What needs to get done? Ask your chief minister. They got a direction, they got a vision. Cascade it down to the mayor. What needs to get done comes to who needs to do what. Who is currently doing what? And there is a gap between who needs to do how much and what is getting done. That is the delta. If you put this on a dashboard, at least you know what needs to get done performance-wise. Therefore, the bottom blue says, if you have got X today and the work needs Y, that delta is what you need to get trained for. I can give you the whole list of these courses, 4,803 courses in IGOT. But unless you know this bottom RHS, which says what is the gap for you, I don't know which course to take up. You will be shocked to know which are the top 2 most popular courses on IGOT Mission Karmayogi. I'll save the shock for another day for whoever is interested. Therefore, you cascade it down into tasks, and therefore you get the competencies. I'm just going quickly without reading everything. Now, this is not something that we preach. This is something that we're practicing. Last, and this is extremely sensitive, don't get into performance management till you give enough people to the governments. That's quantity. Till you equip them properly. That is quality. And the quantity will also take care of the design of the org. You can't have a completely flat structure and one municipal commissioner taking care of 2,300 staff. So once you do that, then you subtly and gently go into performance management. It's unfair to assess people unless you have equipped them properly. And you find this, Bangalore is the only city that even mandated to measure. Others don't even mandate. And there are people in this call who worked in different countries, been to different countries. New York, the walls of the mayor and commissioner are filled with the performance metrics. They can't work otherwise. Otherwise, nobody knows what to do. So does Johannesburg. 0 out of 18 states have even a system. And this is what I'll end with as a normal kind of a slide. See, everything that I say sounds ideal, and therefore I call it pathways. So the LHS says, right now, without changing anything, what can you do? Anand, I don't want to go to the Legislative Assembly. I don't want to create new positions. What can I do? So I'm saying optimize your existing processes. Everything lies in SOPs. If a person is clear what I'm supposed to do, and only then the file goes to the next person, half your problems are in fact solved. Optimize. Initiate the cadre and recruitment reforms. If you don't even initiate, you will never meet that gap. The quantity gap is not going to solve itself. At least initiate it. Don't hire everybody, please share. The 15th FC gave funds for Municipal Shared Service Center. 14 cities, 14 states have submitted proposals. People have taken money. Everybody, please don't hire if you don't need to. Share, outsource. You can do this in a clever manner. On the RHS is things that you can also do by doing the goal cascading, measuring, learning, and then performing. All of this does not require great change. You don't need to go to legislative. But this is how you start in a systematic manner. And this is something that we are doing in Odisha. All four boxes are currently being done. We have started the standard, we've done the diagnosis, we are doing the staffing reforms. I told you earlier, they have a municipal cadre. They didn't activate the positions. So now we are telling them selectively which positions to activate and selectively which cities to appoint in, and the rest can be shared. And we got the annual competency based capacity building for so that everybody signs up exactly for what they need in order to achieve their annual target as per the chief minister. Not random training on everybody should do GIS or everybody should do, climate action plan, everybody. No need. Just be very clever about it. Do a process re-engineering and then manage your monies in order to manage for yourself. That's it from me, and I hope this helps. Thank you.
Anandji, for a very, very nuanced and detailed take on this issue of capacity building. You have done what I would say an X-ray or a system scan, which has brought out the illness open to everybody's eyes, and not opinions based on data. Thank you so much. We'll come back to you. So now let me go to Zifan. Zi, you had been working in UN Habitat, and you had worked globally, and UN Habitat also has the mandate of developing best practices, sharing information. So what can we learn from other great practices in other countries? How to be good for India? Can you share some of your views?
Thank you, Professor Tathagata. Good afternoon. First, I want to congratulate on the achievement of this 147 webinars over 5 years. It's really remarkable, and the webinar is impactful because it's a long-term effort, 5 years, and it's also the same as capacity strengthening or capacity building. Of small and medium-sized towns, we target long-term efforts instead of one-off training. Also, I want to start with the appreciation of the previous speakers, policymakers, academia. Thank you for bringing those good insights from India. And I would like to shift your attention from Indian context to more international perspective based on your Habitat experience. Much have been said, so what I would say may resonate with your opinions. As we are talking about the municipal capacity, is not only about leadership, it's about local action within the framework of these coherent national-local relationships, sector-to-sector relationships, and also stakeholder-to-stakeholder relationships. So that's it's really about multi-level governance. Many of you have mentioned the importance of central government, state government. We not only talk about the local government, and from our experience that you have. I think somebody need to mute yourself. From our experience at UN Habitat, it's really true that when we talk about small and medium-sized cities, they are growing very quickly across the world, in Asian countries especially, and the institutions are not well keeping up. So there is a gap between the scale of challenges, those common challenges like housing or infrastructure has been mentioned many times. Not only that, economic development and those challenges, and also the capacities of small and medium-sized towns to respond those challenges. So, as you mentioned, the policy and tools are often designed for metropolitan cities, not targeting small and medium-sized towns. So, if I try to simplify, there are three main challenges. First is technical capacity. Small medium science center don't have enough planners, engineers, financial specialists, and also even data systems. And the second is institutional changes. Responsibilities are spread across different departments, and coordination can be very difficult. So this institutional change. And third is some of you have mentioned the finance. I think the issue, the challenge is not is not only about lack of funding. It's also the capacity, like the capacity to manage and access those funds more effectively. So this is more lies on institution level rather than not only financial level. So it's really multifaceted of challenges, and maybe I can highlight a few practical lessons as you asked me about the global experience. First, it's important to build institutional capacity, not individual. It's not only about train people, personnel staff, it's also about change the system, strengthening planning system, data system, financial management, staffing structure, and day-to-day management. And the second is also about this multi-level governance. We need this very healthy, positive, strong multi-level governance that allow local governments and empower them to do their job. So this multi-level government system should be anchored in policy coherence, not policy disconnect, which is what we often see in many parts of the world. Local government doesn't know what the nation government wants, and the central government puts a policy in place which local government cannot implement. So this is the breakdown where things start to go wrong. When we talk about small, medium-sized towns, it's really we cannot avoid to mention the importance of central and state government. In federal and decentralized system, nation and state government has a critical role to play in providing clear mandate and ongoing technical support. So policy coherence, multi-level governance, they are prerequisite for any kinds of long-term transformation. And third, third, I want to mention very important aspect is peer-to-peer learning. It's extremely valuable. And cities often learn best from other cities that face similar challenges. Instead of relying on external experts, cities learn best from other cities' experience. So exchange networks and platforms, they're very powerful. This is also what UN Habitat has supported. City-to-city exchange, regional platform, knowledge sharing initiatives. This help translate global concepts into local solutions. Just to give a quick example to have some insights on this city-to-city exchange in peer learning case. I want to bring an example in Germany. There is something called Kleinstadt Academy or Small Town Academy in English. It's a national platform that supports small towns by connecting them with each other and with experts. In Germany, small towns typically have inhabitants around 5,000 to 20,000. And this academy, Small Town Academy, serves as a hub for knowledge exchange, networking, and capacity building. It connects around 2,100 small towns in Germany with experts, policymakers, and stakeholders. The main goal is to help those towns address common challenges such as demographic change, urban transformation, economic development through practical collaborative approaches. And this resonates quite strongly with UN Habitat's approach. It approaches capacity strengthening in a very practical and collaborative way. First, it's really focused on peer-to-peer learning between cities. Instead of relying experts from external experts, they learn directly from each other and share what works, what doesn't, and share their day-to-day challenges. And this makes learning much more practical and easier to apply. And the second is offers very practical tools and platforms for sharing knowledge. Many tools and policies that are really targeting metropolitan cities. So this platform offer very practical and adaptive, flexible tools targeting small towns to be used in their daily work. And third, it encourages pilot projects and experimentation. Cities can test new ideas in small towns, and this platform offers funds to test this innovative project and to learn through trial and error and to develop new solutions for those towns. And also finally, it helps strengthen the voice of small towns. Small towns, and they are not well presented in international and national discussions. They are quite kind of overlooked in many cases. So bringing them together, this platform, national platform, can help make their perspectives more visible and ensure their voice heard, their challenges are better understood and addressed. So they have also a very important political role to play. This is a very useful model, especially for small and medium-sized towns. So capacity building is not only about the knowledge, it's really about creating networks, collaboration, and practical solutions. If I am going to summarize with one key message, it would be capacity building for small and medium-sized towns. They should really focus on long-term capacity strengthening, and focus on institutional rather than individual, and on partnerships across all levels of government. So that's what we have been advocating at UN Habitat partnerships. And it's really about helping to build systems, partnership, and confidence to help them, help cities lead urban transformation. So in the end, it's really local. In the end, it really depends on local institutions to lead sustainable urban development. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you so much, Ji. And you again brought out some very important issues about peer-to-peer learning and about strengthening local institutions. But one point is that we are seriously running out of time. So all the speakers have spoken slightly longer. Let me come to Professor Souvanic Roy. Probably we may not have much time for the second round today. So Professor Souvanic, you have worked in this area of rural-urban transformation and this census towns. Can you throw some light, based on your experience, about urbanization of the census towns and bringing them under the municipal governance umbrella? What is your take on that?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Tathagata, and all the speakers for very insightful and very informative sharing of their experiences. I will briefly speak about the issue of municipalization of the census towns, because those are really where the urbanization of India is going through, which is a bit of in an unacknowledged manner, which generally this is called in different scholars have called it as subaltern urbanization or hidden urbanization, many terms. So what we see in these are the large number of towns. What we have seen in particularly in Indian context, it's very phenomenal. We see in the last decade, we have seen 30% increase of the urban population happen in these towns. And from in 2001, it was like 1,360 census towns, and it has increased up to 3,800, 900. So it's like 185% increase. And the reason for their increase is, to me, there are two reasons. One is because of the push factor from the non-remunerative performance of agriculture. So people are moving from agriculture to non-farm jobs, various type of other service and small enterprise. And the other pull factor which is contributing to this is the lower land price, which the people cannot afford to the central city. So they are getting a much better, means in terms of land price, they are getting a much better deal. But that is, they are devoid of the all sorts of basic amenities. And just I share a data that probably only 20% of the households in the census towns in India average are connected to a sewerage system. So there is almost a rural kind of situation in the sanitation aspect. And the other thing is, in terms of the revenue, the own tax revenue or the local tax is just 1% of the overall total panchayat revenue. So that shows the kind of this governance gap or the service delivery gap. Now coming to the state-wise picture, probably all of you know that West Bengal has the largest number, close to now 1,000. It was 780 in 2011, followed by Kerala, which is 460, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, which shows that highly urbanized states have more census towns. So probably there the potential is more, and also because of the push and pull factor, what I've mentioned earlier. And mostly we see this urbanization happening in almost all the states, are either at the periphery of large cities or capital cities or metropolitan cities, and also along the transportation corridor. And one interesting thing what we have observed in Bihar and West Bengal also, that along national highway there are a large number of census towns have emerged, where the economic base is primarily the waste recycling and the bazaar economy. So which is very interesting. You'll see heaps of garbage is dumped along the highways, and there are census towns growing. And some of these census towns, I in fact checked, the densities go up to 8,000, kind of pressure on land, and that is exactly happening on a completely unplanned landscape. So, and the current system of governance, if we see, there are one is that 73rd amendment. These are governed through the panchayati, that is Gram Panchayat thing. 74th amendment talks about the talks about the Nagar Panchayats or the town panchayats. There was a provision, but that's more like a directive. That was not a legal binding to any of the state governments. And the state governments are following a very different and a very unstructured approach, in that using certain criteria like population, density, occupation, revenue, pace of urbanization and all. But very few states actually have any statutory recognition in their state municipal acts of these kind of census towns. Very few states. And that's entirely depends on the political will or the amount of fiscal resource, financial resources they can provide, and the state intent. So it's more discretionary and not really a kind of a binding. And what we have seen that just to give one example, I've studied the Jharkhand case. Jharkhand has, though the number of census towns are not very large in Jharkhand, but they are following they're taking up certain measures, like including some of these census towns. They have merged them with the municipal councils or the municipal corporation to take it into the ambit of statutory governance. Also, sometimes these census towns are merged with independent town panchayats, or sometimes there is reclassification of their boundaries. So what we have seen is because of this kind of some amount of institutional approach has been taken up. So what has been seen in case of Jharkhand, that they have also provided full-time city managers into these census towns which have been merged with other town panchayats or municipal councils. And there is a significant improvement. The study shows the World Bank study shows significant improvement in the tax collection, and also they are able to even do some cost recovery of water supply, what Gopa was telling. So there are some efforts in that, and that is a result of the staffing which has happened in that. And there is some improvement through in the service delivery, and also in the building plan approval. They are actually integrated with the state level software, which they use it for the other municipalities. So this is what has happened. Probably few other states, like what I found that in Tamil Nadu and Rajasthan, I am not sure about other states, they are making some efforts to integrate them and to into the statutory procedure. So I'll suggest three primary strategies. One is we have to include them in the state municipal acts. That should have well-laid legal provision also, and also the criteria for the declaration of the city, and a framework, a proper framework for the procedure of declaration. That's very much required, because in the next census, probably the number would be absolutely unmanageable unless we make them a statutory entity. That is, I think, the first and foremost requirement. Second is we need a planning framework, both the spatial planning, economic development. We need to look into not only infrastructure, but how to develop the local economy, like waste recycling. That's absolutely in a primitive stage, that is they are doing. And there's a huge environmental cost, health cost, and livability cost of that. So we need to do some kind of local economic development planning, and also the infrastructure development plans with a focus. The problem is, in India, we have lost the focus on basic service delivery. We are making big ticket infrastructure, more focus on capital investment, but not on the network extension. So probably that is the need of for this group of census towns. We need to have a very different approach. Instead of a big capital investment, probably more local solutions, nature-based solutions, because some of them are still in a very early stage of development. So land is not that scarce. So probably there's scope for nature-based solutions and make more integrated approach, so that we can make a more realistic efforts, and we manage these through, because these are less saturated in terms of built up areas. So there is still scope for zoning, land use regulations, and there are many land management techniques which are difficult to apply in large cities, because already they have grown up to the fullest FAR. So probably these are areas where town planning schemes or plot reconstitution techniques, where because of the sheer number is good, is enough to really have a more participatory process to make the plans and implement the plans. And finally, last but not the least, which Hitesh Vaidya has mentioned, that the focus of any planning should not only be the infrastructure or service delivery, but actually on the capacity building of these towns, because there are less external pressure or commercialization pressure in these areas. So probably this could be a much more fertile ground for capacity building in terms of administrative, financial, or technical angle. So yeah, that's what whatever I thought that is briefly to put the main agenda for this municipalization of the census towns, and in the next 20 years.
Thank you, Souvanic, for bringing up again a very important issue about municipalization. Now we are running beyond schedule, so we have to close it quickly. But I mean, there is one question in the Q&A box, and that is for Hiteshji. So I will start with Hiteshji. So Hiteshji, there is a question that are there any frameworks to build public commons in urban India for effective solid waste management and maximum material recovery in the context of privatization of MSW like in China? If my query is irrelevant, kindly connect me to the relevant one. So it is over to you how to address
No, thank you.
this.
I think there has been a lot of frameworks. India has not dearth of frameworks. You pick up one, you will get some. Question is each framework, and I can, not in this because you can write to me, I can share the thing, and I always say, and I think last time also I said, the amount of frameworks, guidelines, uh, the policy frames, the tools which we have created, and if we put all them together, I think, and particularly small towns, small town will benefit by making those frameworks as a five-bed hospital where at least it can deliver. Our frameworks don't deliver, unfortunately.
Yes.
So I think we have a UN Habitat which has done a huge work on solid waste management. We have the Janaagraha here, and a lot of these frameworks are available. Question is, how do you can look at all of them, but what is your own context? Where do you want to look at it? Compare them and contextualize them. We can't make, as I always say, that we always dream that we will make our city Singapore. Let's not make them Singapore. Make your city as your city. Make its identity much more important and much more its USP as a thing. And that's the, I think, opportunity we have with the urbanization premium and all. Make your city own city and then do it, the contextualize it to the best, learn from the best practices, but make your best practice of your own. So all these frameworks, unless you make them and imbibe them, there will be no dearth of framework. So we are very good in making a guideline and a framework, but the question is, again, as I said, we always talk about what, why, where. Nobody is talking about who is going to put pen to the paper, who is going to take that action on the ground. And I think capacity building and frameworks will be if we can empower that who in the urban local body.
Thank you, Hitesh. Very nicely put. And I remember one conversation I had with Charles Correa on this issue. He says that, our approach is always that when people are getting inundated in a flood, instead of supplying food to them, we supply them with cooking recipes. So they do not require recipes, they do not require frameworks, they require the food. So that's very nicely put. Now, as we have run out of time, so I would request everyone to kindly share their comments in just 1 to 2 minutes. And at the end, I will come to Balveer sir and Kirti sir. Next, I'll go to Professor Gopa.
I think I have already taken much time than allotted to me. So
if you want to
last...
have 1 or 2 minutes, you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. So one thing I would like to say, at least, that context is very important, as I have already told. That all cities, one model fits to all cities, even for program for small cities and program for big cities. It's not the way we think. We better think that what is exactly demand driven, and demand, to know the demand, we need a very democratic sphere at the level of the town. Ashok Bhattacharya was talking about this, ward committee, and it doesn't exist. And even if when there is a ward committee, the middle class and upper class, they don't come because they don't depend on the public services. Their services are more privatized. So still that democratic space exists in small towns. Not everything has come under gated communities and big housing complexes. So it's better to we restore the democratic space where we know what exactly is the necessity for the city or the town, and then there can be a CDP, like town development plan, at a localized level, and the state government should comply to those demands, and in a very untied way. That's my only suggestion to make it better.
Thank you, Gopa, for being so crisp and sharp. So now let me come to Anandji. Anandji, please, your 2 minutes.
Nothing require much less than that. Single line. Uh, One needs to start doing, therefore, more nuanced approach. Don't apply the same one size fits all to everybody.
Yeah.
And like Hitesh has said, enough of frameworks, enough handling from Delhi. We just need to take action here. You work with the citizens, you give them an elected government, first of all, and then start equipping slowly. So, a nuanced approach without a one size fits all, and more driven by states and the cities themselves in partnership. So, gradually, you are able to enable and empower. That I think is the single line.
Right, right. Thank you again for giving a very capsule view. So now, Lee, so your final prescriptions.
Mm-hmm. So my conclusion or my one sentence final note would be, I think when we talk about the local government, it's we must put the local government in the framework of intergovernmental arrangements, as you mentioned in the question. And at INHAF that we're talking about multi-level governance. This model is very important because it combines national strategic direction with local flexibility. At the federal level, the government provides a long-term framework and a stable policy, and cities can adapt projects to their own social, economic, cultural context. As you said, context is important. So multi-level governance, it can work very effectively to bring together policy coordination, financial cooperation, and local implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee, for bringing up everything in the governance context, which is really the theme of the webinar. Now, Souvanic.
Yeah, just these small and medium towns or census towns, I think they are both opportunities and challenges. So let not the challenges turn to opportunity should not turn to a challenge, because lack of planning, lack of capacity building, probably that's the place where we can really invest in terms of our all monetary and institutional. So probably the more focus should be there, so that more bottom up and more contextual development can happen there.
Thank you. Thank you, Souvanic. Now, Balveer sir, I see, two of the presenters in their last conclusion, both Mr. Anand Iyer as well as Jifan has referred to the multi-level governance aspect. So can you, sir, reflect 1 or 2 minutes on this challenge?
No, I think it's been a very good learning experience for all of us. I particularly enjoyed the PowerPoint by Anand Iyer. I look forward to seeing it in greater detail. And Dr. Lee also mentioned the existence of a fact, which is in large polities a multi-level governance framework, and how to make it work. I think Mr. Hitesh Vaidya put it very succinctly that it's not so much prescriptions and so on. If I had to end this in just a few words, I think space and voice to the local is the crux of the matter. I think we need to provide that and then draw the lessons from there upwards instead of top down. And I think that is the effort that you are making, Tathagata, is to bring to the fore knowledge and insights drawn from the study and the observation of the local. Mr. Ashok Bhattacharya's experiences were also interesting. So I think all in all, it's been a very productive session.
Thank you, sir. Now let me hand over to Kirti Bhai for the last words, and with one request that Kirti Bhai, you had seen everything from for the last several years, and you have also seen the 74th Constitution Amendment Act getting drafted, and you had given inputs to that as well. So kindly share your closing thoughts.
No, thank you very much. I think, it's been very rich, very extremely rich conversation. We heard so much from so many very interesting people, and I think, and therefore I don't think, and I want to kind of summarize things because there's so much that one could look at. I essentially want to make 2 points which have not been made as addition. One is this, that, and this is what I think, I was talking about yesterday in our meeting on our tier 2 and tier 3 cities, that it is government initiatives many times whose investment drive the economy in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Like Smart Cities Mission, Amrit, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Udan, and several others. As a matter of fact, Pradhan Mantri investment program as well. And I think that was not mentioned. And I think, there is a need to understand how is this working? How is it really kind of, helping cities to grow and take them further. Second thing is this, that I was reading this Ruchir Mishra's very interesting interview in Indian Express yesterday. And he was talking interestingly about the investment. And the question, I think, as a matter of fact, we've got to kind of look at cities, into who is making investment. He made an incredibly interesting statement. I didn't know about this, but I tried to kind of then look into. He said FDI is almost frozen in Indian context for quite some time. And this is a larger macro picture that nationally, I think, this investment is not happening. How is it happening, and how will it happen in the small cities if you're talking about the growth, if you're talking about employment, if you're talking about, I think, investment there that we got to make. And I think this was something very interesting. And the third thing that came out in the meeting yesterday was this, that instead of not only, I think, look at the definition in terms of which are small and medium towns, because then if you look, I was just reading this Reserve Bank definition of small and medium towns. You know what it says? Anything more than 1 lakh, is the T1 city. Now, and if you really look at the definition and the real estate people use, and if you really look at the definition of the people who are involved in investment, you essentially get a very different kind of picture. And I think at a national level, there's a great need to understand what are we talking about, which cities are we talking about, and how would they really go. So all that fit very beautifully in this particular session, and we're grateful to all who came and made very interesting presentation. As a matter of fact, Iyer Saab, I think, I want to have your slides as early as possible. If you don't give me, I'll ask Jesna to give me, because it summarizes it so beautifully. It really it gives the picture immediately in terms of what is happening. So with all this, thank you very much. We are really 8:20, about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And it's a long time, and that everyone has stayed back and have been given such interesting input. So thank you very much. And I think, we look forward to learning more from you. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Hitesh
Thank you.
Saab,
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Hitesh
you.
Saab, I
Thank-
think, you know,
Thank you.
we're going to get together very early to kind of plan I was telling Hitesh Saab that, you know, I'm reaching 150th webinar, and I want some very good people, very good subject to deal with. And he's agreed that, you know, we will look at that.
Sure,
Thank
sir.
you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tathagata Saab. Thank you very much for moderating it.
Thank you. This
Thank you.
always a pleasure.
Yeah.